the tape ran out. I'm trying to show you with a dial indicator that our the run out on the shaft of the motor was 3 clicks of that run out gauge, or the indicator gauge. Each mark on that particular gauge is 1/2 of 1/1000th of an inch. So we have 1.5, maximum 2/1000ths of an inch of run out on that shaft, which is not a problem. We are having the flywheel and all the pieces that go with it rechecked for balance before we go any farther. Now, showed you this several days ago. These have to be tucked up against the wall and tied off, but this is the battery management system. This is the brain module or whatever that operates the battery management system. These are the wires that have to go out and link to every single cell. This back part is finished. He's been spending a couple of days just soldering and making all this operational. We've put this back on and got it to fit. Some minor adjustments are necessary, but it fits and latches quite well. He's still putting the battery management system wiring on this bank of batteries. I think those might be finished, and he's just finishing up this style here. That's what you're working on now?
Yeah, this is the last wire that's going to get.
This is the last ones. The wiring's actually hooked up and the motor is operational, but the battery management system's not finished, so we can't plug in the charger and fully charge up the batteries at this point. But we're not too far away from making that a reality. What's the story with the gauges? Are they on their way back? Or?
I have to call them and pay them. They said they were almost done.
Almost done, so we got to give them a charge card and they can ship in the next couple days. Yeah. So this is how the set will be. We're going to start making the cover to this. The company with the springs for the car should have received the old ones today, and I will know soon what their prognosis is for that. We'll get back when we get a little more done. We get the charger mounted in here and get this cover made, and we're able to charge those batteries up.
Special does this? Why did you not get one of those?
It's been a while, I think, since we recorded. We had to buy another camcorder. Seemed to have real trouble with either tapes or the camcorder itself. This cover has been cut. I don't know if you can see it. It says 190SL electric. What that allows is air to come in through here, flow across the batteries, and there are 2 fans mounted up under here, 2 5-inch fans that will pull the air across the batteries, help pull air across these other batteries also and through the system. The battery charger is back in place, hooked up, and operating. We got to, again, tuck these wires up a little bit, but we're still working on the battery management system, which is functional. We have an under-the-dash LED readout that we're putting in, conforming to compatibility to all the equipment within the car. The motor was taken out because of a shaft, bent shaft problem. Sent out, motor is back and in place. The shaft only has 1/2,000ths of variable play. We still have a vibration in the car. We'll film tomorrow or Monday. And we can't seem to get rid of it, and the flywheel's been balanced twice and double checked. We don't know if it's got a wobble in the flywheel or what. We're still working on that, so the transmission's not back in yet. We sent the springs out and got new springs made based upon the weight differential of the car from front to rear and the overall weight of the car. We do have a problem with the front springs. This is a spring we sent them for a sample, and then we sent them a shorter spring. I mean, we sent them for a sample. This little tang here, that you can see, this goes round and then this is straight for about 1.25 inches. That straight area is needed to fit into the control arm. It locates it on the control arm, keeps the spring from chucking around or moving. It keeps it in place. In a moment I will show you what we found. When we got the springs back, the tang is missing. It's not there. So I'm going to actually have to put one on it. So I'll get a shot of that next. These are the springs that we got back. You can see that it just continues to go around. There is no flat tang on here to position the spring. So I've actually got it in a vise. We're going to warm. This is a dead coil at the bottom. So what we're going to do is we're going to warm this up back to about here, just about to red hot, and then we will pull this up and form that tang that we need to position it. And they're telling me anyway, that being that this is a dead coil and it doesn't flex, that we shouldn't have a problem with detempering it and having it break. But should it, they're going to pay for the new spring and the changing of it. So I'm tired of doing stuff for free because of other people's mistakes. I make enough of my own. So we're gonna do that next. Straighten this up, and we're gonna bend tangs on both springs and then get them put in. So other than the vibration in the drivetrain, and there is no transmission in the car at this moment, other than that vibration that's driving me absolutely bananas, this car is ready to assemble and drive as soon as the spring is these two springs are fixed. We'll get back in a little while. Alright, it's a Saturday and I'm the only one here. So I gotta cheat and hold the camera somewhere else there. The idea is to heat this up quickly. I have a wet rag here to try and stop the heat transfer back into the tube any farther than necessary. The idea is to heat it fast and bend it quickly and then cool it off. This metal on here is a shield to prevent the heat from getting to other coils. But it decided not to stay. To an orange glow is what I was told. Almost there. necessarily been the easiest in the world. Okay, we're going to quench that down here now. I'm going to cool this thing down. We do not want that heat to go up into that coil any farther than necessary. I'm going to get, I don't see it here, I'm going to grab the original and we're going to check and see just how close these are. I don't know if they want this to cool kind of slowly, but I'm trying to keep that heat from creeping up there. I'm going to run and grab that spring and then we'll check the two and see how close I am. Alright, now, while that's still cooling off, you can see that angle, the tang protrudes a little bit more than halfway to center of this pin. I think it can go a fuzz more, and I'm about 7/8, so I might be bent up just a little bit too far. It's really tough to judge that when you're bending it with a pole, with a pipe. I'm going to grab a control arm that's off the car that we have in stock. None of the rest of these coils got very hot, neither did the vise, but we're going to kind of wet that down again and keep that nice and cool. Kind of let that end cool without quenching it. I'll be back. We'll try this in a control arm and see how it fits. Okay, here's a control arm off a 190 SL. You can see the spiral area here and how that spring is supposed to be stopped by that little pocket right there. Here's one of the ones we got back without the tang. You can see it stops right here, but it also can jump around or move inside of there. There's really nothing. As it gets hit here and stops, it jumps out of its pocket right here. The original spring sits down in with the tang into the pocket, and the rest of that spring, if you look at the coil, okay, this pocket, this thing sets in there, and the spring sets, fairly vertical. Now we're going to try the one that I just repaired, which is much shorter, by the way. We want the front end of the car lower, and this is actually stiffer. So we're going to drop this in and see if it fits the pocket and if it sits vertical. Quite vertical. Sits in the pocket nicely. And even though my tang sticks out just a fuzz farther, it does not seem to affect the way that it sits right in that pocket. I may grind, I got a little rubbing here, I may grind just it's probably still hot yet. I'm going to grind just a touch off of that edge so that it doesn't rub this wall right here. But you can see what we're trying to accomplish. We're going to do the same thing with this spring, and then we're going to get them popped in. And it's a little aggravating having to redo things that you didn't have any control over. And I could get all angry and mad and jump up and down and scream, but you know what? That's the way it is. Life's not always perfect. Life's not fun. I used to have quite a temper, but the Lord got a hold of me and shook me around a little bit, and now I try to keep things in stride. I have to keep telling myself that He's in control. Every time our government or our president opens his mouth and says something stupid, I have to keep telling myself that God's in control and He's not and I'm not. So I have to keep that in mind. So we'll get these things fixed. It's not the end of the world. And get that front end popped back together. And somehow we got to figure out that vibration. I'll get some pictures of the vibration. And again, I'm not sure we'll feel all of that as we're going down the road with other road noises and so on. But up in the air on stands, we still have a small vibration from 1800 to about 3000 RPMs. Then it goes away. So it's kind of confusing. We'll get some shots in a few more hours after we get this car put back together, and we're going to get the rear springs put in. The second one is finished. She's still cooling down. You can see that the bottom edge of the coil is about 3/4 of the way into the center of this coil. The factory part is about the same. It's right there at the edge of the fingernail. So this one here, a little more accurate than the last one I did. Although it'll be okay, I'll just nip a touch off that edge, and it'll be perfect. As soon as this one cools a little more, well, actually, it's probably cooled enough. Still pretty warm. I don't want to quench it too quickly here. Keep it like wet down below. Again, we don't want that heat to transfer down to these coils. I've been holding my hand down in here, and it's not too hot. She's cooled down pretty good now. Get that out of there. This again is the second spring. Fits nicer right in that baby. Nice and vertical. The other springs that we cut off that were his originals wouldn't handle the added weight and so on, but we trimmed them down and put them in, and we had to weld the tang on. And I'm pretty sure it broke off within the first 50 miles. We haven't pulled them out yet, but these are custom made, custom designed, like I said, for the weight distribution of the car. So this coil, considerably shorter than the original, but stiffer, and we want the front end of the car to be lowered a little bit anyway. So we'll get these in. It'll probably be a few days before the car comes back down on its all four wheels, but we'll get these springs mounted back in. Been a while since we've taped. Got a different camcorder. The other one, the voice was breaking up in like mad, so got a new Sony here. We're going to see how this works. Car's back on its wheels, brand new springs. I think they're called I'm trying to think of the name of them now. Progressive springs. Driven the car, it's much more stable than it was. It's lighter than it was. Customer would like us to put hubcaps on here, so we're making arrangements to figure out how to get hubcaps on here. These particular wheels will take a full wheel cover that looks like it has a trim ring and a combination hubcap. We may have to go to something like that and see how that looks. The bad batteries have been replaced. We got to put carpet and what have you back in the front here, but we've gone a few miles of test drive already. Car is a little bit dusty because they're doing some construction up our street. We have a license plate holder coming in that'll mount on the back. We're figuring out the best way for him to charge the car without cutting holes in the body, if at all possible. Still working on that. This is March, I believe, 31st. In about 1 month, the customer would like this brought back to him in Malibu Beach. And we're doing everything we can to make that happen. So we'll get the camera and take it with us when we start doing test drives. I'm trying to get a license plate for it today that we can actually mount on some rubber straps and hang it out the back so it doesn't scratch the paint. And we can drive this legally anywhere we'd like to go. We need to put some miles on it and find out how many miles we can actually get on a charge. A few other bugs to work out, but mostly minor stuff. We'll get some shots as we get going down the road and different places that we'll travel to. Back at the car, drove it yesterday, 46, 47 miles. It was the first charge up. The batteries have balanced a little better this charge up. We're past 90% of charge. So it's been plugged in since 9:30 this morning till about not quite 2 o'clock in the afternoon. We got about 5 hours on it. We've attached the charger properly to the panel. We now have cut a mesh that's going to protect goodies from falling through. You're going to want to measure 38 inches. You don't need to go beyond that. And we're going to put this mesh on here with 3M two-sided tape that they use for putting moldings on a car. Steve, you can't go beyond 7 either. Did he give you measurements? So let's check that. Hang on a second.
That's enough to do it, really.
Okay, we got 3M tape, right dimensions. Everything's going to set on here nice. And we'll go ahead and put this thing on, and then we'll get this mounted in the car. We should be in good shape to put this back in there. Colin's tying up lines, getting them tucked out of the way. Maybe tonight I'll go on a couple-hour drive and try to put 70, 80 miles on this thing and see what we can do. While I'm driving, are the fans going to come on?
Not at this point.
Yeah, I want that happening. I want the fans to circulate. He's got the fans circulating during charging, and it is so far seems to be keeping the batteries cooler. First time we charged it up, we didn't have the fans fully operating, and I was just using a blow gun to kind of blow some air across things to keep them cool.
It's directional.
So
This is the rounded side you want.
we got a cover to put on this yet. I'm not 100% satisfied with how the brakes are operating. We're going to see how that goes. They push fairly hard. It's almost like the power brake booster isn't boosting as well as I would like. Everything's operational and working, but I'm just not sure that it's doing the job I would want. The car weighs around 350 to 400 pounds more than the curb weight of original because of these batteries. And the controller, I do have one 70-pound heavy-duty battery here to operate the lighting and what have you. And should that start getting low, there is a regulator that trips in. This controller will trip in and actually put power back into that battery while you're driving from these other batteries. It takes the 330 or 350 volts and drops it to 12 and recharges that battery. Keeps it operational for your lighting. All right, I'm going to get this buttoned up. We have a folding down stainless steel license plate mounting bracket. The idea is to, no one's real fond of it, but we're probably going to have to cut about a 2-inch hole here and put in a waterproof unit that is only exposed when the license plate's folded down. And this is where you would plug the car in. But we haven't done that yet. We're kind of cringing at cutting a nice big hole through that body panel. We'll get back after we get this on here and get this all mounted. Maybe I'll even take the camera with me on a drive.
Do that on the boat.
Okay, where pressure sensitive tape is on. Little pieces on here. Looks pretty sharp, actually. It's going to take something pretty small to fall down through them holes.
It's on there, darn.
Oh, it's on there so strong I can lift the part by putting my fingers through the holes and lifting up. It's very, very sturdy. I don't know how well it comes out in the camera here, but this looks pretty sharp from where I'm standing. It should look good inside the car, and it really lets air through, because when we kick the fans on, it was pulling air over those batteries and it cooled them right down.
I don't see any screws falling through that at all.
This meshing is made to let air through because it's for server cabinets.
Yeah, it's for the server cabinet.
It's specially made to let a lot of air flow through.
All right, we'll get some shots after we get this mounted in. The car grew legs, got real tall. Doing some revamping under here. We are getting not enough air circulation to the motor. Motor's getting too hot, and it sends a signal to the controller to limit its power to keep from burning up, so it slows us down. Doesn't give us the acceleration we need. I'm making an aluminum air diverter. I know this looks funny, but it's not finished yet. It's going to attach here, come down. Because this car has been lowered, we got to be really careful how low we get to the ground. So this is going to be bent again here and pulled back up only about an inch here. Sides bent up. We're going to make like an air trough, force air back against here. And I also have another blower fan that will go above this in front and blow straight back onto the motor, and that will be on all the time while you're driving. So I put 61 miles on this last night, and after 25 miles I ran into the problem where the motor limited me down to about 40-50 amps, and normal acceleration you use 100 to 125. So it diminished your acceleration capabilities by about a third, or about 2/3. So you can't accelerate and drive very fast, but at least you don't burn the motor up. We're going to try and get some more airflow to that. This is Friday. Is this April 1st already?
April 2nd.
April 2nd. What? Losing time already. And we're going to spend some time fabricating and finishing this. We'll drive the car over the weekend, see how it does, see if it improves. Get my fan up in there and get this airfoil and make sure it doesn't rub the ground and things like that. See what kind of clearance we get. There's a possibility. We already changed these tires last night. Went from 205s to 195s. We got parts ordered so we can put hubcaps on here. So it should improve the look of the car a little bit there. There's a possibility, depending on ground clearance, we have to have airflow over that motor. These tires are P175/65s. We may have to go to P175/70s. They would be half to 5/8 inch taller. That will give us a little more ground clearance. We don't know that yet until we put some more miles on this and see how it goes. So we're going to go bend up this aluminum, do a little more fabricating on it, get it mounted up, get a fan mounted above it, and we'll try it out tonight and see if the motor gets too hot or whether it improves it. It's about 7 o'clock at night, April 5th. I'm parked in front of my house. Driving the car. Since yesterday, I've put on 49 miles. Kicking on here. Turn the key to on. Up with this switch. Back down, it sets a relay. It says after approximately 50 miles that we have half of our charge still in the vehicle. It says here that we have 330 volts. we started out with about 342, and after 50 miles, it's 1/10 of a mile away from 50 miles. After 50 miles, we are down to approximately, this gauge we're having trouble with, I can't really trust it. I watch this over here when I get down around 320, and I kind of watch for how the car is reacting and what have you. We just put in 3 auxiliary fans today to help cool the motor. We've been getting signals that the motor is getting too warm, and then the controller is shutting down our amperage and slowing the car down automatically so as not to hurt it. That's why we're test driving this and doing the things we're doing. So we'll get some shots here as I go along. We're going to do some testing tonight. We're supposed to get rain in about 2 hours. Weather's getting kind of crummy out there. Do not want to get caught in the rain. So I'll spend maybe the next 20-30 minutes driving and then head back to the shop. We're not going to charge this up until we get to where we feel is the low end of our discharge, and we're going to see how many miles we can actually get out of the car. So we'll get some shots later. I'm going to get shots of acceleration here. Doing 40, 50, 60, still in 3rd gear. 60 miles an hour, 3rd gear. Pulling about 110 amps. 70 miles an hour. About 75. We're actually going to turn here. Miles an hour, not a problem driving 55 to 60. We got a little bounce in our speedometer, we're still working on that. It steadies up and then bounces here. We just lubed it, so hopefully that'll free up. Get a shot here of just the normal acceleration. I'm not pushing it real hard. It's nearly the same as the car when it was a gasoline motor. I wasn't putting my foot on the floor, and I don't know how well this is coming in because it's windy at 50 or 55 miles an hour. I'm holding this down so that the wind is a little away from the microphone. We're cruising about 50. My goal is to my goal, of course, is to get around 100 miles out of a charge. We don't know if that's going to be feasible. We don't know if that's going to happen. I've gotten up to 62 miles out of a charge without it running down, and the batteries were not fully charged at the time I did that. So the feeling is that we'll get 100 miles, and so that's what this test is all about. You can see by the weather that I'm probably not going to be out too long, and I'm not going to fare very far from base operations, which is about 3.5, maybe 4 miles from where I am now. I'll get some video later, maybe after I put another 15 or 20 miles on it. We're entering an expressway. We've gone approximately 58 miles. Not quite to 60 yet. Shifted into 4th gear at 40 miles an hour. We're only doing 2,000 RPMs. Going to see how well it does here entering the expressway when traffic here is 70 miles an hour. Going to see if we get run over or if we can sustain 70 mile an hour here in the traffic. I'm doing 60. I'm accelerating smoothly so as not to use a huge amount of amperage. I don't know if you can see that or not, but we're drawing about 50 to 70 amps. We're doing 70 miles an hour now, 75 actually. The speedometer has been calibrated within about 3 miles an hour, so we might only be doing 72, but hard to say. I'm going to see if I can keep up with traffic here. Traffic usually does about 77 to 80 miles an hour. It's a pretty good load on this, pretty good load on the motor. We're actually going uphill. And remember, we don't have a full charge. We're supposedly 50 to 60% of our battery capacity is used up. We're going to hit the next exit and head back to the shop because I'm in a little bit of mist right now. Not rain, but I feel some mist on the road here. We sustained 70 uphill. So we're doing pretty good. 75, almost 80 a little bit there down the dip. And I've got my foot in it pretty far. So apparently, even with a half or even a 40% charge of the batteries, we're sustaining 70 miles an hour, even uphill without too much hassle. So I'm going to sign off and try to get out of this mist here. I feel pretty good at passing a semi-truck. Get some shots later. Okay, we've swapped to HID headlight on one side. We're going to flip them on. The HID uses the same amount of amperage, wattage of both lights.
It takes a second to warm it up, so once it
And it warms up, takes a bit to warm it up.
Wow.
Get down here and get a little better shot. HID headlight. Standard. It's not even a halogen, it's just a standard headlight bulb.
And you still got the highs and lows
On the floor.
Is it the floor one?
Yep. You can probably pull that flasher unit on the steering column and get the same effect.
You still have highs and lows.
Okay, do that again. Okay. That's high beam.
No, that's high beam. They're different. One side's different.
I thought you rewired that.
No, we don't have to.
All right, try it again.
Lows.
All right. This HID wants to burn a hole through my shirt at 4 feet away. Quite a bit brighter.
More visible color spectrum too.
Yeah, the colors are different. I know at night it makes quite a difference. I don't know if I dare look into this thing straight.
No, the video camera can. It'll focus weird. And it'll get it so it's dead on. Do dead on both.
It's pretty bright on this one. I think it's just a mess. It's so bright it just obliterates everything. I'm not sure how well that's going to go. I'm going to take a picture with a still camera here. We'll get some shots after we get both bulbs put in. A little tight for space in here, but both HID headlights are in. I don't know if you can hear it. You can hear some fans running. We're in the process of individually charging a couple of batteries that were lower than the rest of the pack. Bringing them up, or forcing them up rather than wait for several more charges. Broke a milestone a couple days ago. Drove 100 miles on a single charge. And I still had battery power left. We were having some overheating problems of the motor. So we have some very high CFM fans that just came in about half an hour ago. I'm putting metal shield covers on here. Colin already nicked a finger on one while it was running. Very, very fast, very powerful motors. Multiple blades. Really kick out some 220, I think, CFM per fan. And we're going to put 4 of them, if we can fit all 4. We're going to put 4 more around this motor down here, blowing air, maybe even 1 up here, blowing down, and 3 more down around the motor. And they'll be on constantly while the key is turned on. So they're pretty intense, so we're going to hear some airflow, but this is not a water-cooled motor, so we do need that airflow. So these headlights, really bright. It's fantastic driving this thing at night with those babies in here. They don't draw any more power than a standard 35 watt headlight. We'll get some shots in after we get everything charged up, these fans put in, and we're going to test drive this weekend. We're going to try and put 100 or 110 or whatever we can get reasonably on here, depending on how well the motor reacts. We can't have the motor overheating all the time. The motor has safeguards built in, but we don't like reaching them all the time. The safeguard is when the motor starts getting above, I think it's 175 degrees, which is pretty warm. It kicks the amperage down through the controller so that the motor can't get enough power to get any hotter. And then you drive slower or pull off the side of the road with the key on, leave the fans on. Just a couple of minutes, it cools right down and away you go. But within 2 or 3 miles, it limits you again. So you have to stay in the 25, 30 mile an hour range while the motor's cooling. And that's not conducive if you're trying to drive 60 or 70 miles an hour on the highway. So we'll get these fans on here and get another shot and test drive this and see if we can keep that motor cooled off. All right, we got a fan up here. What the heck did I do? Looks like I'm magnified here somehow. Just a minute.
You could, yes.
When I put it in the bag, maybe. I don't know. Anyway, we got a fan up here. 3 fans underneath. We used all 4, didn't we?
We have all 4.
Plus 2 from before?
And there's 1 or 2 from before, maybe only 1.
We have 5 or 6 fans on this motor. We're going to kick some power on here. Colin's working on... we were getting light flickers with these headlights on, any headlights on, we were getting light flickers. He had a diode in here for a variety of reasons, but we've removed it. Now this little box right here, as necessary. This box was feeding a lot of the system, and this was a backup. Now this is the primary, and should that start getting low, the main battery pack here through this DC converter will power this battery back up and keep its level up around, what, 12.5 to 13 volts?
Yeah, 13.
Somewhere in that area. And when we did what he's just doing now, taking the diode out and direct wiring it, the headlights didn't flicker. This battery should remain charged. It's going to use a small amount of power from these to keep it at its peak voltage, but very little. So we're going to kick on the key. Now the hood is open. It'll be quieter with the hood closed. We're going to kick on the key. These are the air fans. Now each fan is about 220 CFM.
218 CFM.
218 CFM. There's 4. So we have a total of 850 approximately. 860 CFM. Plus we have at least 2 other fans under there that were 80, I believe, or 85 CFM. So we got a total close to 1,000 cubic feet of air being circulated around the motor. And we've been having trouble with it getting too warm. So this will, we're hoping, this will totally alleviate that problem. So we're going to close things up here. You want to take that blanket off the other side. We're going to see how much quieter this gets, if at all, with the hood down. It's a little quieter. When you're going down the road, you won't hear it.
Quieter too when the front end of your car isn't more than a foot in the air.
Yeah, it'll get quieter as we... Now, you had this set so that it cannot be driven away with the... with it plugged in, correct?
We have not ever tested that in theory, yes.
All right, we're going to test that when you set her down. We'll get back here in a minute. We're going to test one more thing. I know we've got a little noise here with these fans, and I know they use some power, but you can't be overheating this motor, and there's just not enough air circulation around the beast, so this is giving us air circulation. It's really moving some air under there now, so we're hoping that we're going to be able to overcome the heating issue. We got our 100 miles out of it. Now we got to overcome the motor getting hot so that we can do 50, 40, 50 miles one direction on the highway if we want to. So we'll get some shots shortly. He's going to set her down, and we're going to make sure that by accident the owner is not going to be able to grab this thing while it's plugged in and drive away with a cord hanging out the back. Starting a fresh day, Saturday. I think it's April 17th or 18th. I don't keep track of time much. Starting the day with 653.5 miles on the car. Put our emblems on it. Wheel covers will be put on as soon as the pins come in. People won't have to guess at what this thing is now when it drives by. We'll try and keep track as we go of how many miles we get today on a charge. So we'll find out. It's cold, it's in the 40s. Be lucky to break 50 degrees today, so I'm dressed a little warmer. We'll see if I can last, because it's kind of cold. We'll get some more shots later. Drove about 60 miles today on the expressway, up to 75, 80 miles an hour. But for short distances, like 6, 7, 8 miles at a time. Visited several businesses that we deal with, showed them the car. Went to 2 television stations, showed them the car. Everybody was in meetings at the TV station, so we'll see if they call tomorrow and wish to do anything, a little blurb on their TV about this or not. Got the license plate mount in location. On the floor here is the plug that we're going to put right about there underneath of the license plate, so it will be covered when the license plate mount goes back up. This style wants to hit the car body there, so I have tape under it. But I have these rubber bumpers. You drill about a 3/8 hole, push that through it, put a screwdriver in here, a Phillips head, and you push it through, and this snaps into the hole, and they'll go probably right here and right here, and it'll prevent this from slamming back up and hitting the body or possibly chipping paint here. It'll hold this a little more than the thickness of your finger away, approximately 1/2 to 5/8 away from the car body when the well, actually we can put it in upside down. They'll go down in a little deeper, and you can see that, of course, probably upside down here. You can see that there's clearance under there and plenty of room for this flange. I'm trying to find, we haven't been able to find any type of a rubber cover for this, so I'm actually going to put a soft rubber pad, if you will, underneath of here that will lay up against here, just in case he washes the car. We don't get water down inside this this connection, so I gotta seal that somehow. So we'll figure out, or we'll snap some type of a rubber cover over here. I'll make something. But this is on. Works very well. You can pull that down, plug it in. This will actually come up and hold the cable up, because it's got a fair amount of tension. Only thing we've been able to find at this point that's going to work properly for us. You can see there's some debris there I got to wipe off from the drilling. I got to punch a 2-inch hole approximately right here in the body, not too close to the reinforcement inside, and I don't want to see it outside of here. So we got to measure that off and pop that in there now, and then drive it some more tonight. It's about 7 o'clock on a Monday, April, I believe, 19th. And we hope to have this loaded up this Friday and be on our way. So, get some shots as I get a little farther along. This is laying here so that the cord doesn't rub on the paint in any way and scratch it up. So, we'll get some shots after I get everything mounted properly and the license plate put in. You can see why employees didn't want to do this. A little dusty and dirty around the hole, but it's a nice clean 2-inch hole. I'll deburr a little bit here around the edges with a rat tail file carefully. Wipe off these magic marker marks. We'll get that piece mounted. We'll get our 2 rubber bumpers mounted. Get the license plate mounted. Clean up the back of this car. We'll figure out how to seal that cover after I get everything in there, because it's the proper one for this and all. But we'll get some shots as soon as I get it screwed in. Okay, starting to get dark. No idea what time it is, but it's getting late. It's after 8 o'clock. Just checked on my cell phone. Been at this for about 2.5 to 3 hours. This will fold down. I got some debris to rub off of here. Obviously it's dirty from my working on it. The plug will be here, totally hidden. He can plug in these 2 rubber stoppers. Should he slip, they'll just hit those rubbers, not hit anything. The body of the side body of the frame, I don't know how well you can see it, but the side body of the frame is about 1/4 of an inch away from the body of the car, so it can't hit it, scratch it. Screws are not sticking through, nothing interfering, and you cannot see the plug even from the side. You really can't see that plug behind there until he tips it down. Now, charger's plugged in at the moment, so I'm going to pop that apart here a second. Hard to do with one hand. Okay. And then we'll pull this down. Kind of hold it with my elbow here. Nothing's wired yet on the inside, but I want to see how well it'll hold this into place and where the license plate comes. That's what she'll look like while it's plugged in. I may put I probably can go this way right here. That won't hurt anything. It's kind of laying against the edge of the plug. Not really twisting. No, not really twisting on anything because it's mounted pretty firm. May want to put a little rubber here or something. This is just our in-transit plate, so it's not something we have to be overly concerned with at this point. But he'll plug in either at his home or at a recharge station, and that's what it'll look like. He'll have an extension cord coming out with a box on the end of it that will go to the recharge stations that they have in some of the cities, or on the other end of this cord will be a plug to fit his garage. Should he need a 110, I have that as well. This will plug into this is a heavy duty cord, plug into a 110, and on the other end of it, this will plug directly into the car body as well. So we've got him pretty much prepared. We are going to have to buy an end comparable to the 220 that he has in his garage. Then all he's got to do is twist this, unplug it. We'll figure out some kind of a cover for that. Up it goes. If it gets wet in there, all he's got to do is just wipe it out with a rag, pop the plug in there, and he'll be fine. But I would prefer to have some type of a cover there. So there we are. Monday evening, we're real good shape. I'll plug it back in and finish the charge. I ran about 60, I think 62 miles today. No overheating problems. Like I said, on the expressway, going pretty quick. Even had to use performance mode to get out onto the expressway because some trucks and stuff were coming. Worked very well. And then went back to economy mode when I didn't need that extra boost. So we should be out of here loading this in the trailer by Friday this week. So I've got 4 more days to finalize any last minute stuff. But looking good so far. We'll get back when we do some more testing and when we get ready to load it. We have less than a minute before this tape totally runs out. So I'm just going to use it up, show you that we've got the electric emblems on. I don't remember if I showed that before, the ones on the rear. We keep spare glasses for both daytime and nighttime in here because of a little bit of wind in the eyeballs. So we're going to close this tape out. If we have something else to show, we'll start a new tape. And on the travels to Malibu, we'll run a new tape. So this is the end of this tape. We'll go on to another one.